Okay, let's try that again. Sport mode, downshift. Downshift again. Bang, on the power. Sorry, Michael. This is happening. It's one of the most iconic car shapes ever designed. It boasts technology that is commonplace even today. This is the W124 Mercedes-Benz, and you're watching Retro Review. Oh, I am excited for this one because my actual neighbor had this car, and I remember when they took delivery, it was modern, mind-blowing, and iconic. This is what a car looks like to anybody that's grown up in the 80s. And let's start in the front here because this one has the clear lenses, which means it's the facelift. It's also got the iconic manhole cover wheels, which became the staple of most of the Mercs of the era. Very recognizable, and there's so many recognizable parts on this car too. Rearview mirrors aren't usually a highlight, but these were big at the time. And what's interesting is that the other side is a different size. Of course, there are going to be chrome details on a car in this era. And don't forget the planks on the side, as they were called, which will help you distinguish between the various models as they changed over the years. More updates on this model because of the different lenses at the back. And the big change was the fact that the letter E came first and not after like the previous generations. Oh, such a big deal, you say. But at the time, it really was. Of course, a gigantic boot came standard back in those days, but what didn't come standard was a 10-disc CD shuttle in the back as well. This one over here is added to our collection, and it is absolutely mint with exceptionally low mileage. Let's take a look inside. We got to keep this in context because this car was a technology festival when it was first released. Let's start on the right-hand side here. You've got the light switch with park lights, and it's got a fog light as well. And below that is the handbrake release because this handbrake works with a pedal. The dashboard on here is typical Mercedes-Benz, but timeless because it's very similar to what Merc is using these days, even when it's digital. This over here, of course, is the steering wheel, and weirdly enough, it feels like the left side is closer towards you. I'm not sure if this is a Mercedes-Benz thing of the era or just something with this car, but we'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are. Speaking of steering wheel, this one has an airbag on the driver and passenger side. Even very recently, there were cars that were sold with only one airbag. A phenomenal invention and something that paved the way for cars of the future. This one, if I can get the finicky key working, has the single wiper blade that moves up and down. A very cool feature at the time, and again, another invention that was maybe copied by other manufacturers after. That brings us to the center console with the wood grain interior. Takes me back to those 80s days. Then, of course, you've got a whole bunch of features here that are just unusual. Rear demister. You can fold the headrest down from in front here. You can switch the back light on from in front, and of course electric windows, power steering, air conditioning, all the latest features, and a Becker Le Mans sound system that still works to this day. And I can hear the aerial popping in and out of the back as well. We'll finish it off with a fully adjustable seat, a lockable compartment over here, adjustable armrest, light switches. It just goes on, and then there's this little shade over here. But I gotta point out that this car is probably one of the best examples I've seen recently. The body is pin straight, low mileage. Let's go driving. Remember I told you this key was finicky? Anybody that's ever owned this car with an alarm immobilizer knows that there's a system that you need to adhere to. Other systems include the seatbelt warning light on top here, and we're off. Okay, I've actually got other mats in here so that I don't dirty this car. It's that pristine, people. And immediately you notice that this is a smooth car. You see, back in the old days, Mercedes was known for making comfortable cars. BMW made cars that handled well, and Audi made cars that gripped a lot. And never the three shall meet. But these days, though, those lines have been blurred. But before those lines were blurred, Mercedes-Benz made some of the most comfortable cars known to man. One of the complaints that I often level at modern cars is that they're just not comfortable enough. There's too much of a focus on handling, and this is coming from me, someone that loves good handling cars. But sometimes you don't need a car that handles well. Sometimes you need a car that's supremely comfortable. And today is one of those days, and I've got just the car for the job. Now, that's not to say that Mercedes-Benz don't handle well. I mean, this one here, if in an emergency, you would be able to swerve in and out of trouble in no time at all. It was also an exceptionally safe car. And again, as I mentioned, these two airbags over here prove that point. The steering is very responsive at center, even though it's quite light. There's not a lot of delay when working the steering, and I would imagine that tech and development that went into this car was just on another level at a time where maybe not this much effort went into building a car. Mercedes-Benz threw all the effort at building what they knew would be a bestseller for them in that decade. I've got my arm on the armrest over here, which also was one of those things that certain cars just didn't come with, but this one did. Looking up ahead, you see the three-pointed star atop the bonnet over there, and you kind of know that you're driving something with a sense of occasion. You're driving a Mercedes-Benz, and it smells like a 1980s and 90s Mercedes-Benz when you step inside here, that's for sure. The only defect that I can find on the sub 100,000 kilometer car is the roof over here that's hanging a little bit. But I'm sure Michael and the guys in Joburg will fix that once the car gets to their side of the world. For now, I'll be enjoying the wood grain interior, the smell of leather. Oh man, this is nice. I can live with this. Now, if you remember these cars, you'll remember the Ackerman angle that these wheels were capable of. And car enthusiasts, kids like me, would often ask our cousins, brothers and fathers, what does that mean? Why is that wheel tilted that way? Well, that means you get an incredible amount of turning ability when trying to make a U-turn like that. And also the caster, I'm sure, was designed to make this car comfortable and easy to drive. Okay, let's try that again. Sport mode, downshift again. Bang, on the power. Sorry, Michael, this is happening. Up again. Oh, this is fast, eh? This is properly fast. This is a properly fast car. It's of course from a time where cruising on the Autobahn was normal. And this is not a slow car. This is a decently quick car. And if you needed to cruise at high speed on the highway, you could do it. But where it really shines is this type of driving. One hand on the wheel, I never told you that. The other hand resting on your leg and on the armrest, and just maybe holding your lady's hand while taking a leisurely Sunday cruise to the winelands. You've got height adjustable seatbelts over here, and I wasn't sure what this button was, but that is the electrically adjustable rear view mirror, people. Electrically adjustable rear view mirrors in a car this old. Oh, wow. This is like taking a step back in time, but into the future at the same time. Back to the future, maybe? Oh, this is a lovely car to drive. This is a lovely, smooth car to drive. And one of the things that I find non-negotiable on a car is, number one, the steering wheel needs to be straight. Number two, I don't like any vibration on any car. It doesn't matter how old or new it is. If something's vibrating, there's something wrong. And this car has got no vibrations, no wobbles. The steering is dead straight. The body feels dead straight. It's the kind of car that you can give to your parents, your siblings, to me, and they would, and I can, enjoy it equally. The W124 has been a trip down memory lane for me and for many of you, I'm sure. It is still as good as Mercedes-Benz said it was back then. And even by modern standards, it's not bad and still tech-loaded. It is the car that paved the way for many that came after it. And for that, the W124 deserves our respect.